All right, we're going to start today's meeting. And I would like to thank everyone that's here today, and anyone that may be listening online. Today's lesson is entitled, "The U.S., Israeli Zionists, and Iran in Bible Prophecy." We'll be going over that. The U.S., Israeli Zionists, and Iran in Bible Prophecy. Before we get started in the lesson, I'm going to review some slides to give us some background information so that when we get into the lesson, things will be a little bit more clear. So before we start the lesson, we need to know a little bit about the history of the book of Daniel, or prophecies within the book of Daniel, particularly Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2 reveals the fate of the region of Judea from the time of Daniel up until the end of time, in which the Most High will establish his covenant with David. That's when he's going to make David king over Judea, or over the whole world. Most people are looking for a Messiah to come. Some of them refer to him as Christ, or, well, I shouldn't say Christ, but the word Christ means Messiah. But some of them refer to him as Yeshua or Jesus. The Islamic people who don't believe in Yeshua or Jesus, they're looking for an Iman, or I forget the exact word that they use, but they're also looking for a Messiah to come. But anyone who is of the original Israelite teachings of old that existed before the first destruction of the first temple know that our king has already been chosen. And he was chosen before his death, and that was David. The Most High chose him, gave him a covenant, and said that he was going to build him a house, and that he would reestablish his kingdom at the end of time, once all his enemies were put under his footstool. So in the dream of Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel chapter 2, these words are spoken. It says, "Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image." Daniel is telling the king what this dream that he had. He claimed he couldn't remember, but I actually believe Nebuchadnezzar remembered the dream, because he had also told all the other men that he called in his kingdom to tell him about the dream. He put them at the point of death. They not only had to tell him what his dream was, they also had to interpret the dream. That way he knew who was telling him the truth. He didn't tell them what the dream was. He wanted them to tell him what the dream was and to interpret the dream. Nebuchadnezzar wasn't playing with anybody. And he told them, "You can't do this, I'm killing you." Daniel was the only one that could do both. The rest of them couldn't do neither part of it. And he saved all those people's lives. So this is what Daniel's telling this king. He says, "Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. And this image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before me, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold." And we know eventually Daniel's going to tell us who that fine gold was that represented the king and his kingdom itself. That was the Babylonian Empire. "And his breasts and his arms of silver." We know later that that's going to represent the Medo-Persian Empire. "And his belly and his thighs of brass." We know from historical records that became the Grecian Empire. "And his iron, and his legs of iron, and his feet part of iron and part of clay." Now, this kingdom is never named in the actual chapter of Daniel chapter 2, and neither were the others. However, in Daniel chapter 8, those names are the silver and the brass kingdoms were given names, and we were told they were Medo-Persia, and then we were told they were Greece. However, the fourth kingdom, the kingdom of iron, was never named. It says, "Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet. that were of iron and clay and break them in pieces. No, the image, the stone that comes out does not come out to hit this image in his feet until we at the time of the iron and clay kingdom of the fourth kingdom. All right. So that's when that happens. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together and became like a chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain. And we know that's going to be the government of the Most High that will take over the whole world and fill the whole earth. So we're going to look at the history. We're going to look at from the day Nebuchadnezzar took over Judea all the way up to this present day. That's what this is talking about. Who's going to be ruling this region through all this time? That's what we're dealing with. So in this image, as we discussed before, the Most High, this is the Most High's hourglass. This is telling us, or telling his people, where we are with respect to the end of time. Okay? So we can know from that dream and from this image how close we are to the Most High reestablishing his kingdom. All right, so from Daniel 2:31 through 45, that's what this image is talking about here. Or this is a picture of that image. So you can see that the head of gold was the first kingdom, and we know that was a Hamite kingdom because Nebuchadnezzar was a Hamite. He was not only of the seed of Noah, but he came from the line of Ham. And that was the Babylonian kingdom that ruled Judea, as well as a lot of other places in the world, from 605 to 539 BCE. Then the next kingdom, which was the second kingdom, the kingdom of silver, we can see that that was the Medo-Persian Empire. So when you go into Daniel 8, so far right, where it says second vision, Daniel 8, we know that that was the ram that he saw. Okay, and they were a Shemite and Japhite kingdom because the Medes were of the seed of Japheth, and the Persians were of the seed of the Shemites, or of Shem, who was the oldest son of Noah. The third kingdom was the Greek empire that came after them, and they were represented as the goat in Daniel 8 that smote the ram. And they ruled from 331 BCE to 164 BCE, and they were also a Japhite kingdom. They were from the seed of Japheth, the three sons of Noah. He had Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So right now, when Daniel's in captivity talking to this king, he's letting him know that not only will the Hamites get a chance to rule Judea, that the Shemites and Japhites will get a chance to rule Judea, and now the Japhites alone will rule Judea. And then Daniel tells him, but we can see right in there, see right underneath the Greek Empire, the Greek goat, I have the Hasmonean dynasty. What happened was in 164, there was a little break in foreign kingdoms ruling Judea. And the Hasmonean dynasty came forth after the Greek Empire, the Seleucid Empire failed. And what happened was these Levite priests that were fighting against the Greeks regained control of the temple of the Most High, and they got control of the region again, and now they could reestablish and do their laws. They could start their ceremonies. They could start their sacrifices. And they were living independently of other nations at this time. And this was for a brief period. It was about 100 years they did this. Now, what most people don't understand is also during the Hasmonean dynasty, everybody knows that all of the kings prior to this time in Israel were from the tribe of who? Judah, right? But yet, during the Hasmonean dynasty, there was no Judean king that ever reigned during that time. And that was because there was no seed of David left or Solomon left during that time that could take the throne. So if we and when you read in 1 Chronicles 3, chapter 3, you see the entire bloodline of David, and it ends with a man by the name of Elionah, he had 7 sons, and then after he had those 7 sons, it dies off. So his 7 sons, their offspring are never mentioned. So there's no connection between those men and the New Testament because you got about 200 years to play with right there. So nobody can claim that they were of the seed of David by the time so-called Jesus came on the scene. You get what I'm saying? Nobody can claim that. I said of the seed of David. I didn't say they couldn't say they were of the tribe of Judah. There were other people from Judah that were in existence, but no one from that royal bloodline. And this is something that is not taught in most Christian circles and definitely not in Islamic circles. All right, so now that we're down to the 3rd kingdom, and then the Hasmonean dynasty comes about, the Hasmoneans were also living wickedly. They were not obeying the Most High. So the Most High now established a further or the last punishment that we were to receive, and that is the 4th kingdom ruling over Judea. And the 4th kingdom, believe it or not, is actually the seed of the serpent. They are the seed of the serpent. They are not children of Noah at all. They cannot trace their bloodline back to Noah, Shem, Ham, Japheth, nobody. Okay, they're a whole nother type of people. Their republic was established in 509, although they did not have control of Judea at that time. Their control did not start over Judea until the Hasmonean dynasty fell. So around 63 BCE to this present day, the seed of the serpent and everything that's ruling Judea right now is the offspring of these people. Okay? We're going to get into why that exists. And then we know at the end of time, the scripture says that they shall mingle themselves with the seed of what? Men. So we're in that day where the seed of the serpent has mingled himself with the seed of men. And so, and they also have taken on a lot of the identities of the children of Noah, calling themselves by the same name, but they're not really the same people. They're now an amalgamated race of people, most of them. So now we're going to get into the first vision of Daniel, which actually occurred around 553 BCE. And that happened in the first year of Belshazzar. So Daniel had all of these visions when he was in Babylon. All right. Now we're going to deal with the 4th kingdom. When the 4th kingdom came in, when it first came in, the legs of iron, it first was a Roman republic. That's what they called themselves. And that republic lasted from 63 BCE up to 324 BCE. Then the Romans under Constantine, remember Constantine changed the capital of Rome and he moved from Rome to Constantinople and did all that stuff. All right, then Judea became under the control of the Byzantine Empire from about 324 to 638 CE. Then the Byzantine Empire lost these wars to the Islamics because by that time, around 600s, Islam was coming up, right? Christianity was already on doing this thing, but now Islam's coming up, and the Islamic caliphates now had control over Judea, right, from about 638 to 1099. And then the Christians wanted Judea back. So now there's another war. Remember the Crusades and all that stuff? So then the Crusades happened and they got control of Jerusalem again, or Judea again. So the Crusades came about, and that happened from 1099 to 1187. So it's a constant fight of the seed of the serpent over this region of land. A constant fight going on. So then after they had it for a little while, another Islamic group came in, and they called themselves the Ayyubid or Malouk period, and that lasted from about 1187 to 1517. Now, I do want to say this before we go any further. When the first Islamic group got control of the region of Judea, and particularly Jerusalem, they built a mosque in that region, in the city of Jerusalem. That mosque is still standing today, all right? And it's called the Dome of the Rock, or it goes by another name as well. That dome they built over top the foundation stone that the second temple had been built upon. So that temple that they built in honor of Allah, their God, is right now covering up the foundation stone of the second temple that was built by Abdi. Okay, so they're doing that because since we lost our heritage, they're trying to take our heritage from us. But the Most High is going to redeem us and what? Give us our heritage back. But because we've been so wicked, we're now being punished because when he asked us to do what he asked us to do, we didn't do it. Right? We didn't do it. So after the period left, the Ottoman Empire came in. They were also an Islamic empire, but they were slightly different. So remember, just like Christianity split off into different types of things, Baptist, Methodist, Pentecost, Islam did the same type of crap. You get what I'm saying? They split off into different factions. You see, this fourth kingdom, the scripture says, is going to be a divided kingdom. They're all one people, but they're divided. They can't agree on nothing. You get what I'm saying? So the Ottoman Empire came in and got control. So that was up until about 917 CE. 1917, excuse me, thank you, Tracy. 1917 CE, they had control. So then after they lost control, the British came in, and the British had control of Jerusalem and Judea from about 1917 up until 1948. So that whole thing of Daniel, this dream that Nebuchadnezzar had, the Most High was showing him and us, because now we can take this information and it's relevant to us, who would be controlling the promised land. Get what I'm saying? Who's in control of the promised land? And we can know, and then as we can see the clock ticking, we're getting closer and closer to the end, right? That's the when he's going to appear and establish his kingdom. All right, so the British Mandate happened, and that ended in 1948. When the British Mandate was complete, the region of Judea, and particular Jerusalem, was given into the hands of the people of Jordan, and now an Israeli division. Remember in 1948, that's when they said the so-called nation of Israel was reestablished. Y'all remember that? And all of these people from Russia, all of these pale-faced people from Russia and all over the world started going back over there to what they said was their promised land, and they established a nation, right? And these people were actually, the leaders of these people are actually Zionists. They didn't go in there as Zionists, but eventually the Zionists came forth. Because what happened was, in 1967, the Jordans and the Israelis had a big war. And the other Arab nations were helping the Jordans fight, but they lost that war in 6 days. And when they lost that war in 6 days, not only did the Zionists gain control of West Jerusalem, then they got control of East Jerusalem. But even in them getting control of it, they had enough sense not to destroy the Dome of the Rock, because that would have created a big holy war, a huge holy war that would have never ended. It would have ended, but it would have just been a whole lot of it. In other words, time wasn't right for it yet. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Now, this is where we are in this image right now. We're actually in Daniel chapter 7 right now. We're in the present. Well, Zionists took over. So then Daniel chapter 7 is there. This is where we are right now. And this is why we're going over the study today. The U.S., Israeli Zionists, and Iran in Bible prophecy. Now, these names are not mentioned in the Bible, so we're going to have to find them another way. We're going to have to find things that show us this is what the Most High is talking about, right? So we're in the present day, and right now the 4 winds of Daniel 7 are beginning to blow upon the Great Sea. And the Great Sea is actually the Mediterranean Sea, which is just off the coast of Judea. All right? Now, after the 4 winds are completed and everything they do, then the 4th piece of the 4 winds will emerge with 10 kings. And after the 10 kings appear, we know that another horn is going to come up, and that horn is going to make war with the people of the Most High. And there will be human sacrifices. Okay? But we're going to find out what we need to do to be ready. All right, so now let's deal with the 4 winds of the 4th kingdom. So the Zionists announced Operation Rising Lion on June 13, 2025. Okay? They are actually the king of the West, because when you talk about the four winds, you're talking about north, south, east, and west, right? Those are the four winds of heaven. So each one of these each one of these beasts of Daniel 4 are going to come from one of these directions of the four winds. One's going to come from the west, one's going to come from the east, one's going to come from the south, and one's going to come from the north. Okay? The first two have already been revealed. Now, when I say north, south, east, and west, I mean with respect to the city, Jerusalem, the Most High's chosen city. So one's going to come from the west of Jerusalem, one's going to come from the east side of Jerusalem, another's going to, you see, on north of Jerusalem, and one's going to come from the south of Jerusalem. So the king of the west has already been revealed, and that was the Zionists and the United States. And we're going to find out why that is when we get into the lesson. And then the king of the east, because Iran is east of Jerusalem, am I right? They're going to be this bear with three ribs in his mouth, okay? And so we're going to find out where we are in time and where we need to be looking at this hourglass and how close we are to the end. He says, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my night vision, my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion. It didn't say that it was a lion, but it says it was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, pulled off, torn off. That's what that word means. And it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And I behold another beast, a second like a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. Now, we're going to get into the lesson as to what that they said thus unto it really means, because what that is saying is somebody's giving this bear permission to do what? To devour flesh. Let me ask you something, Linda. If I hit you, I'm the aggressor, I hit you, do you have a right to hit me back? Okay, so that you have permission to hit me back. So what that's saying is the lion's going to strike first, right? And then they said thus unto the bear, do what? Go and hit him back. That's what they're basically saying, right? All right. Now, there are two beasts yet to be revealed, and that's the king of the south and the king of the north. We do not know who these beasts are yet. However, when the news brings about, the king of the south is going to appear, and the king of the south is going to be a conglomeration of four probably Islamic governments that are going to, I'm just going to say Islamic, because everything south of Jerusalem is what? Just about Islamic, right? So I'm looking at the clues, you see. So these four Islamic governments are going to come together, and I don't know what four they may be. And I don't know what form it will take place, but that's what we're looking for next. Four kingdoms working together as one to do what? Because the bear going to have control eventually, so they're going to eventually take over the bear. You get what I'm saying? All right? And then after them, the king of the north is going to come in. And the only thing I can figure north of Israel is the European powers, right? They're going to come in, and from them, as 10 kings, that's when another horn's going to emerge, and that's when the persecution is going to start. All right? And we're going to learn that when the king of the south appears, that's when the end of time begins. I'm going to show you scriptures that confirm that. All right, so now that the innocent people walking around using their New Testaments and their Qurans, they will not be able to deny that what we just revealed to them about the lion and the bear is true, because they're not going to find that in their New Testament. You get what I'm saying? They're not going to find that in their Quran. And now, because they're going to church and their pastor can't answer their questions, you're going to have all the information. Okay, you're going to have the know-how to teach them. Hey. Put that book down. Put those books down, come over here and listen to the Tanakh. Get what I'm saying? Listen to the words of the Most High. So it says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. And notice he does not have the wings of an eagle, but he has the wings of a fowl. They got different type of airplanes here, okay? They're not using United States airplanes. They got wings of a fowl, okay? It says, and dominion was given to it. So this beast will get dominion. It will be during this time, when this 4-headed beast appears with wings of a fowl, that dominion will be given to it. In other words, it's given to him. I don't know if the Iranians are going to give him this power. I don't know if the Iranians are going to be part of this power. But all I know is the scripture says that dominion will be given to him. Dominion over what? Judea and the city of Jerusalem, okay, will be given to him. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth, and it devoured, breaking pieces, and it stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And I behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So he's going to be talking against the Most High. This is the most evil man that's going to ever live right here. Okay? That's who he's coming. That's what we headed to. Now, I got question marks on who the king of the south is, question marks on who the king of the north is, because we don't know yet. These things will be revealed. But you're in a study now that's telling you what to look for. You get what I'm saying? So thus he said, we were looking at a little caption in that red box, or red outline box. Thus he said, the 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour what? The whole earth. Not just the region of Judea, but what? The whole earth. And shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first. And he shall subdue 3 kings. Those 3 kings that they're talking about there are 3 kings within their empire. Okay? Not the 3 kings previous, although he will defeat them too. Everybody will become subject to him. And he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak what? Great words against who? The Most High. They're going to make outright war with the Most High. You're going to be seeing it on the news, people talking directly of ignorant, crazy stuff about the Most High. We almost to that point now, the way Donald and them be talking, right? Yeah. But it's going to get worse. And he shall wear out who? The saints. Because they can't beat God, so who they going to pick on? They're going to pick on his children. They're going to pick on the easiest thing they can get their hands on, right? Okay. He shall wear out the saints of the Most High. He shall think to change times and laws. And that's getting into those calendar studies. So all these calendars and stuff we got, all that's going away. Because remember, I told y'all that during this time, the year's going to change. The physical year's going to change. So there's going to be a lot of undeniable proof that people that are in Islam and people that are in Christianity will not be able to deny that you're telling them the truth. You understand? To give them opportunity to wake up. Okay? It says, and they shall be given into his hand. Now, even though this beast going to be speaking some ugly things against the Most High, and he going to be killing the people of the Most High. Look what the scripture says. But they shall be given into his hand until a time, times, and half time. The Most High is going to allow him to reign unchecked when he is checked. But you get what I'm saying. So whatever crosses his mind over this next 3.5 year period, he will be able to do. He will have the authority to do. So if he says off with Linda's head, guess what? Off with Linda's head. If he says off with Tracy's feet, guess what? Off with Tracy's feet. Because the Most High is going to give us into his hand. Why is he doing that? Because he tried to tell y'all, I set before y'all life and death. Choose life. But what did we choose? We chose death. So he gonna give you what you asked for. All right. Now, the king of the south is the signal of the time of the end. So we're not at the time of the end yet, but we know we're getting close to it. Why? Because the lion and the bear has already come on the scene. So the minute we see this the third piece appear, you and I know now. I don't know about the rest of the people, but you and I know that we at the time of the end. And see, this is why the Most High gave us the book of Daniel to prepare us, right? This is, and at the time of the end, that's go right there. Look at that in that left box. At the time of the end shall the king of the what? South push at him. So when the king of the south appears and pushes at the bear, or whoever's gonna win this war between the lion and the bear, we at what? The time of the end. It says, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. He shall also enter into the glorious land. What is the glorious land? That's the region of Judea. That's the promised land. So the whole fight, this whole thing is about what's going on with the promised land. You get what I'm saying? But people are making it about oil. They're making it about fertilizer. They're making it about all these things, but all of those are distractions. This whole war that's going on between Israel and Palestine is who's getting control of Judea. That's what this whole fight is about. Okay, when we get into the lesson, we're going to figure that out. It says, he shall also enter into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. That's in the city of Jerusalem. So when that fourth piece comes up, he has one goal in mind. And you know what that is? To put his temple where the Most High's temple is supposed to be, because he thinks he God. Okay? And if you don't serve him and his new, because he's going to do away with Islam, he's going to do away with Christianity. He God. So you either serve me or you die. Okay? Yet he shall come to his end and none shall help him. But he's not coming to his end before those 3.5 years is fulfilled. You understand? All right? Now, I showed you at the time of the end shall the king of the south push him, right? Let's go over to that square on the right-hand side of that scale. And he says, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book. So right now, a lot of people do not understand the book of Daniel. But listen to what he says next. Seal the book when? Even till the time of the what? And what happens at the time of the end? The king of the south appears, right? So we know at the time of the end, the king of the south appears. So the book will be sealed until the king of the south appears. And when he appears, the king of the south, guess what's going to happen? That's when a lot of people are going to wake up, and many shall run to and fro, and what? Knowledge shall be increased. Now you can teach all these stubborn knucklehead people clinging on to Christianity, clinging on to Islam, because they even have no other choice. You get what I'm saying? All right, so when you look at that picture in the middle there, you see that the Tanakh has more weight than both the Quran and the New Testament, right? So that's what this is going to be all about. The Most High's word is going to be magnified during this time. All right? Yes. So now we can get into the lesson. And I'm sorry if I got a little excited, but I can definitely feel what's getting ready to go down. All right. Let's get into the lesson. So from the lesson, we're going to look at the United States, Israeli Zionists, and Iran in Bible prophecy. After the Bar Revolution of 135 CE, the province once known as Judea was renamed Syria Palestina by the conquering Romans. The Romans also renamed the city of Jerusalem to Aelia Capitolina, which lasted up to the time of the Byzantine Empire. The Romans first successfully destroyed the Most High's temple in 70 CE. Then later, because of the Bar Revolution, banned all Israelites from living in their homeland by exiling them. You know, after 135 CE, if you were of the bloodline of the seed of Israel, you were not allowed to live in that land of Judea. You get what I'm saying? You understand they were totally banned from living there. This was done to remove any vestiges of ancient Israelite heritage from the region. Today, this area is known as Palestine, and the effects of what the Romans accomplished in the past is still evident today. How many of those people you see over there in the Middle East right now look like us? We the real Israelites. We've been banned from living there. Our foreparents was banned from living there. We everywhere else but there, right? Right? Many of the people who now inhabit this area are not indigenous to this region and have obtained it by force and maintained it by enforcement of military might, as did the Romans. Since the true descendants of Abraham lost control of this region, the city of Jerusalem has seen 9 different governments. The governments include 1, the Romans, 2, the Byzantine Empire. I'm not one of those dates because I showed you those dates in the chart. 3, the early Islamic caliphates. 4, the Crusaders. 5, the Ayyubid and Muluk periods. 6, the Ottoman Empire. 7, the British Mandate. 8, the Jordan and Israeli division. And 9, the Israeli Zionists. That's where we are today. The Israeli Zionists have control of that region mostly. Within these 9 governmental transitions, 4 different religions have had control of this city, which include 1, Serapis worship. Most people don't know that Serapis worship was the earliest form of Christianity before it became Christianity. Okay? That's where Christianity came out of Serapis worship. All right? And Serapis worship started in Egypt. And it branched out, and they had a lot of cathedrals and stuff all throughout the region of Judea, because I told you our people were living wickedly. That's how we lost that temple. And then 2, Christianity came about. And then 3, Islam came about. And then the last one to come about was, well, actually, not the last one to get control was Judaism, each coming with bloodshed and war. All right? Now, although Jerusalem is presently controlled by Israeli Zionist regime that practices Judaism, it is also the site of the Dome of the Rock, one of Islam's oldest temples. The location of this temple presents a problem for Zionists because they believe that this temple is built on the exact spot where the original Temple of Solomon once stood. However, the Islamists hold this temple and site sacred for 2 reasons. 1, to celebrate and commemorate the victory of Islam in 692 CE. And 2, because many believe this is the spot where Muhammad ascended to heaven. However, the Israeli Zionists want to make this site the location of a temple they desire to build in honor of their coming Messiah. Okay? So no matter what the news may be reporting about the present events in Palestine, the true source of contention is over the sacred spot located in East Jerusalem. So no matter what we seeing about the gas and everything else, this fight is really over Jerusalem, right? All that other stuff is distractions. Today, both the Israelis and Palestinians are using false arguments to claim rights to this land, because neither party was granted just sanguineous or just solely rights to the land by the Most High. These rights are reserved for the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Behold, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers, not nobody else's fathers, but your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give unto them and to their seed after them. Therefore, this region belongs to the true children of Israel, who are of the seed of Abraham, but they are not part of the modern day political arena due to their conquest and exile as of 135 CE. Tensions rise for control of Palestine. The modern phrase "from the river to the sea" is a political phrase that refers to a geographical area that includes Israel and the Israeli occupied Palestinian territories. the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza. The Palestinians have been wanting liberation from Israeli control since the 1960s when they lost that war. And when this phase first became popular. Since that time, political conferences have convened to establish a two-state solution, but nothing has materialized. However, in 1969, the phrase from the river to the sea came to mean one Islamic democratic state that would supersede the domination of Israelis. Recently, however, the ethno-religious state of Israel is now using the same term from the river to the sea to refer to Israel alone having complete control of this area. Israel has stated that it is not willing to settle for a two-state solution and wants total control of the land under its government, which is a Zionist regime. Due to Israel's obstinate stance, it has been difficult to keep peace in the region. However, the final holy war for this has begun as prophesied by Daniel. Israel wants to build a Zionist temple where the Dome of the Rock presently stands, but this cannot be done without the subjugation and or annihilation of the present Islamic population. Thus, the Israelis began their final military campaign called Operation Rising Lion for just that purpose. The four beasts of Daniel 7. The visions written in Daniel 7 are over 2,500 years old. And the four beasts spoken of in this same chapter today are widely viewed as past kingdoms. While many Judaic and Christian practitioners teach these are past kingdoms, they do, however, accept that parts of the vision related to the fourth beast remain unfulfilled. Yet when closely examining the entire chapter, it is obvious that none of this could have been fulfilled until the Israeli Zionist regime announced Operation Rising Lion. The four beasts of Daniel 7 were never named or identified, as were the beasts of Daniel 8. Therefore, anyone viewing them as past kingdoms cannot verify such conclusions with scripture. Daniel 8, however, identifies the animals mentioned in that vision. The ram, which thou saw having two horns, are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the kingdom of Greece, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Furthermore, the beasts of Daniel 7 are unclean and ferocious. A lion, a bear, a leopard, and a 10-horned beast with nails and feet. While the beasts of Daniel 8, a ram and goat, are classified as clean and domesticated based on Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. Now, what kind of beast would you rather keep around your house? A lion, a bear, a leopard, or a 10-horned beast with nails and feet? Or would you rather keep a ram or a goat around your house? All right, so you can see those beasts got nothing to do with each other, right? All right. This means that none of the beasts mentioned in Daniel 7 correlate with any of the beasts of Daniel 8. The beasts of Daniel 7 are not successive empires like the beast of Daniel 8 that ruled Judea centuries apart, as referred to when considering the image of Daniel 2. The beast of Daniel 7 coexists and are all functioning at the same time based on how Daniel sees the four winds strive upon the sea. Also, while Daniel was living in Babylonian captivity over 25 years ago, he was told that these great beasts, which are four kings that what? Which shall arise out of the earth. He was told this was in the future, right? He says this means that even the first beast that arises from the striving winds can never represent Babylon because it was already in existence at the time of the vision, right? It is the purpose of this lesson to disclose that after 2,500 years, when the Israeli Zionists and the United States announced Operation Rising Lion and Operation Midnight Hammer and Operation Roaring Lion and Operation Epic Fury, the first beast of Daniel 7 was revealed. It is imperative that the people of the Most High understand Daniel 7 and what it means for our time of preparation. The four winds in the Great Sea. It was on June 13, 2025, that the Israelis announced Operation Rising Lion. And since that time, there has been the largest U.S. naval buildup since 2018 on the Mediterranean Sea. The U.S. is in these waters to support the nation of Israel, which is a Zionist regime. The Zionists do not want a two-state solution for the control of Jerusalem or the entire region of Judea, and want to expand their borders from the river to the sea to fulfill their vision of a greater Israel. The prophecies of Daniel 7 start out focusing on the same region. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spoke and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. Daniel 7, 1 and 2 state that Daniel had a dream and visions during the night in the first year of the reign of Belshazzar, the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel, upon having this dream and visions, decided to write it down. Daniel starts by writing that the four winds of heaven, which are the north, the south, the east, and the west, were striving against each other. This is symbolic of a war of winds which he saw upon the great sea. The words the great sea, written in Daniel 7:2, is a specific body of water, and not just any body of water. Therefore, the words the great sea should be capitalized because it is the name of the specific body of water. Another name for the great sea is the Mediterranean Sea. Two translations of scripture have carefully named the great sea as such: God's World Translation and the International Standard Version. In my visions at night, I, Daniel, saw the four winds of heaven striving upon the Mediterranean Sea. That's from God's World Translation. Daniel said, I observed the visions during the night, and lo, the four winds of the skies were striving upon the Mediterranean Sea. That's the International Standard Version. These versions of scripture translate the term, the Great Sea, as the Mediterranean Sea. This helps us in understanding the location of where the four winds are striving, or what they're striving for, right? The children of Judah, when being given their territorial possession of the land of Canaan, were informed that the Great Sea was to be their west border. And the west border was to the Great Sea, and the coast thereof. This is the coast of the children of Judah, round about according to their families. The only sea west of the children of Judah's territory is the Mediterranean. This vision of Daniel concerns a great war that would take place in the region of Judea, Daniel's homeland. When Daniel was living in captivity in Babylon, he longed to know the fate of his homeland, so the Most High shared with him the prophetic history of Jerusalem and Judea. Daniel chapters 2, 8, 9, 11, and 7 reveals this fate. These chapters reveal in order all the foreign powers that will at some point have control of Judea until it is given back to its rightful owners, the four winds and the four beasts. Daniel's vision informs us that these four winds were striving upon the Mediterranean Sea, transformed into beasts that live on land. These beasts each came from one of the directions of the four winds to war for the region of Judea. Therefore, the scripture confirms, and the four beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. These beasts are different from each other for various reasons, which include but are not limited to any of the following: language, religion, culture, economics, warfare technology, governments, national flags, etc. Yet they are one divided kingdom. Now, just because we see them fighting against us, we need to understand that they're all the same kingdom. Is that the Most High prophesied that this kingdom would be divided. You understand? So they're all the same people. These beasts are all part of the kingdom of iron that presently has control of ancient Judea. There are at least four things. There are at least four things all these beasts have in common. One, they are all foreign powers that plan to dominate the trade and traffic on or near the Mediterranean Sea to assure their survival and or interests. Two, they are all modern nations in which the descendants of the exiled Israelites presently serve. So while we're not in our land, we're in their land serving them. All right. And three, they want control of the land of Judea that rightfully belongs to the descendants of the exiled Israelites who have lost their heritage. And four, none of these four beasts are willing to relinquish the land of Judea back to its rightful owners and want to keep them hostage and misinformed as to their identity. And so let's look at the first beast, the king of the west. The first beast was like a lion and had eagle's wings, and I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand upon his feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to him. A lion is often thought of as the king of beasts, yet the real king of beasts is man. Such right was granted to man by the Most High on the sixth day of creation. And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Therefore, this lion-like beast represents a nation of people who are not a descendant of Adam, but consider themselves to be a king of all nations and refuse to bow to man. They do not walk in the authoritative order established by the Most High. They carry themselves with an unbridled arrogancy that is apparent in all their ways. They believe the world is their oyster. Therefore, they move with impunity in every facet of their life. The only way they can see themselves is to be at the top of the food chain. They have a supremacist attitude without any regrets or conscience, being ethnocentric to the core. They know nothing about being humble because they believe it shows a sign of weakness, and admitting a fault is an abomination to them. Such nation is the Zionist regime of modern day Israel, who use their financial, political, military, medical, agricultural, social, entertainment, educational connections, just to name a few, to control the world. They use the symbol of the lion as though they are people from the original tribe of Judah. But this is a stolen identity. However, these people are delusional in believing they have a right to usurp an identity that does not belong to them. Hear the words of the Most High concerning his true people. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, that redeemeth Abraham concerning the house of Jacob. Jacob shall not now be ashamed, neither shall his face now wax pale. Are not the Zionists pale face? So how could their migration to Palestine in 1948 be a sign of Israel's prophesied return? True Israel's prophesied return. Listen to a recent quote by Prime Minister Netanyahu. You know, if the people want to be naive, that they don't see the kind of world we're living in this world. It's not enough to be moral. It's not enough to be just. It's not enough to be right. You know, one of the greatest writers of the 20th century, someone that I admire a lot, was the historian William Durant. Now, he wrote many volumes. I read most of them. He also wrote the Lessons of History, very brief, 100-page book, in which he said, well, history proves that unfortunately and unhappily, Jesus Christ has no advantage over Genghis Khan. Because if you are strong enough, ruthless enough, powerful enough, evil will overcome good. Aggression will overcome moderation. So you have no choice if you look at the world as it is today. You have to be blind not to see that the democracies led by the United States have to reassert their will to defend themselves and to oppose their enemies in time, while there's still time before the jarring gong of danger wakes them up and wakes them up too late. This is where we are now. The fact that people don't see that, and the fact that a lot of news media is hawking on a lot of fake news, but also a lot of short-sightedness, and do not see the historic period and the historic struggle that we are engaged in now doesn't obviate these truths. We have to be strong. We have to be armed. We have to be more powerful than the barbarians, or they will not be merely at the gate. They'll crash our gates and destroy our societies. That's what Israel is doing now with the United States. I'm very proud of the fact that the Israeli people are standing strong and that the Israeli army is standing strong. We rose from October 7th. Our people, our soldiers rose like lions, but in protecting ourselves and in joining with our great American friends, we're also protecting the entire world. Does this sound like a redeemed nation delivered by the Most High? What was that, Tracy? Okay. What gives them their greatest advantage over all the other beasts is their eagle's wings, causing them to soar high above the rest. They fly from a lofty position, looking down on. They see from a lofty position, looking down on everyone else, and can swoop down at a moment's notice to subjugate their enemies. The eagle's wings represent the United States, a nation who gives Israel the necessary military and financial support to carry out their plans and goals. Listen to the words of Netanyahu from the same speech. As Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, said, these are the most amazing air forces of the world. It's the two most amazing intelligence services in the world. It's the CAP. It has the capabilities to confront these barbarians and to outstrip them, both in innovation and when necessary in legality. It's directed, it's targeted lethality. It's going against the killers and as much as possible to avoid civilian casualties. We have those capabilities. We're building them for the future. That is what safeguards the future. This lion-like beast has only one head to reveal who's controlling the eagle's wings, and it's not the United States president. The United States is $38 trillion in debt to the same Israeli regime, who could pull the plug and collapse the economy at will. AIPAC, American Israel Public Affairs Committee, has complete control of our government, and there is no turning back. So Israel gets what it wants, and what it wants is Jerusalem and complete control of the Middle East. Therefore, Israel, feeling the time was right, announced Operation Rising Lion, Roaring Lion, to carry out these plans. And the United States is supporting them by announcing Operation Epic Fury. Yet the scriptures declare, I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. Based on this line of reasoning, it appears that the eagle's wings will be torn from this lion-like beast. The word plucked comes from the Hebrew word meret, which means to be pulled off. For the eagle's wings to be pulled off, it could not have been done by this beast himself, but by some outside and opposing entity. Most likely the barbarians that Netanyahu was referring to in his speech, in his televised speech. Incidentally, haven't those barbarians proven they have the ability to shoot down the most expensive military planes with stealth technology manufactured by the United States? The scriptures then states that once the wings are pulled off, that the lion-like beast, he will have to stand upon his feet as a man. This means that this beast will lose his air superiority and will now have to enter a ground game which will not be to his advantage. As a result of losing his eagle's wings and having to fight from the ground as a man, this lion at that moment will be given the mind of a man, meaning he will realize that as a beast, he is not a king, and the beast, king of beasts, and will be humbled. This is the opposite of what happened to Nebuchadnezzar over 2,500 years ago, when the Most High wanted to humble him. Nebuchadnezzar, as a man, was given the mind of a beast for a 7-year period, and let his heart be changed from a man's, and let a beast's heart be given unto him, and 7 times pass over him. When that 7-year period ended, Nebuchadnezzar declared, at the same time, my reason returned to me, and for the glory of my kingdom, my honor and my brightness returned to me, and my counselors and my lords sought unto me, and was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol the honor of the King of heaven, all whose works are truth, and his ways judgment, and those that walk in pride he is able to abase. Therefore, to humble this man, the Most High gave him the mind of a beast. Now to humble the lion-like beast, the Most High will give him the mind of a man. It will not be until the lion-like beast receives the mind of a man that he will realize that his goals, ambitions, and his stolen identity are all a fraud. But this will not be enough to bring him to his end, because all of his connections he has made. His wings may be torn, but the king of the West will live on. The second beast and the axis of resistance, the king of the East. I beheld another beast, a second, like a bear, and it raised itself up on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it, and they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. Based on Netanyahu's speech, the barbarians that he spoke about must be the nation of Iran. Iran is the only nation that both the Israelis and the United States consider to be the greatest threat to them dominating the Palestine region. Iran is the only nation that is not willing to submit to the whims of the lion-like beast and is willing to oppose them with force. Thus, they call themselves the axis of resistance, and they want to keep the lion in his cage by forcing him to live only in the territory granted him by the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 181 of November 19, 1947. It was this resolution that divided Palestine into Arab and Jewish states. Iran refuses to allow the Israelis to violate this resolution, which Israel is presently ignoring by expanding its borders. Israel and the U.S. have been at odds with Iran since their puppet, the Shah of Iran, was ousted in 1979 during the Iranian Revolution. They wanted the nation of Israel to be like all the other. They wanted the nation of Iran, thank you, Tracy, to be like all the other Arab countries in the Gulf region who have a king dictator being someone they can control. In so doing, it would make the Zionist plans to take over ancient Judea go much smoother with less opposition. Just ask any Zionist or AIPAC member how long Iran has been the sponsor of what they call terrorism, and they will tell you for 47 years, which started the day the Ayatollah came to power in 1979. Therefore, Israel and the U.S. killed the Ayatollah Khomeini on February 28, 2026, with the start of Operation Roaring Lion, revealing the nation of people represented by the second beast. Iran is the second beast, or the bear, of Daniel 7. He is the king of the East. Iran, for the last 47 years, is believed to have been planning for this moment and their right to exist as a sovereign nation. Although Israel announced Operation Rising Lion in June 2025, its criminal efforts did not initially invoke Iran to a point of no return, but led to a 12-day war that ended in a ceasefire. Israel did not officially poke the bear until February of 2026, when it murdered the Ayatollah Khomeini and many other Iranian leaders in a surprise attack called Operation Roaring Lion. At this point, Iran was given the right to defend itself. Thus, the bear has raised itself, ready to strike and devour much flesh. Iran has vowed that this time there will be no ceasefire agreement, that the war will not end until the Zionists and the AIPAC US meet three demands. These three demands will satisfy the bear's hunger, which is represented by the three ribs between his teeth. The three demands are: 1, recognition of rights; 2, reparations; and 3, future guarantees that will prevent reoccurrence of war from the Zionists and the US. Iran today is demanding the removal of all US bases from the Middle East and is waging a relentless war against their components. The world stands in awe of Iran's ability to defend itself, and it's exposing the lies and hypocrisy of the Zionist and corrupt US government. Based on their demands and their ability to defend themselves, the scripture has already disclosed that the lion's eagle's wings will get pulled off. This will be done by the force of the Iranian government, a Shia Muslim nation, or Shia Muslim nation. We got to also remember that three religions are involved in this war right here: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. This will appear to be a huge victory for Iran until and will embarrass the Zionists and Christians to no end and expose their doctrine as lies. The Most High will expose Judaism and Christianity as frauds, first before he deals with Islam. These three fraudulent religions have done more to persecute and deceive his people since their inception. It will not be until the third beast, called the King of the South, appears and takes control of ancient Judea that his people will acquire a better knowledge of his word, because the liars have been defeated and the book of Daniel will be unsealed. And thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even till the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, referring to the king of the east. And the king of the north shall come against him, referring to the king of the south, like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter into the glorious land. He shall enter into the countries, referring to the Middle East, and he shall overflow and overpass. And it shall be with the emergence of these last two beasts that the Most High's people will have confidence in his word, because the book of Daniel will be unsealed. May the Most High prepare us for this moment as we patiently await the unsealing of the book of Daniel and the revealing of the last two beasts. And may the Most High add a blessing to the reading of this lesson, and may the hearers thereof realize how short our time is.